Thank you for clicking this video. By the end of this super edited crash pack tutorial, you'll know what a database is, what is SQL and SQLite, how to create a database, and how to do things with your database using the SQL language. As I just mentioned, this video is super edited. We don't waste a single word every single moment you are learning what you came here for. Enough of that, let's get into what you came here for. Starting with, what is a database? First, I'm going to give a real life analogy to help settle in the image of what a database is. Imagine you're sitting in your car and you got a bottle of milk in your hands. That's not very practical, is it? Sure, it would be great if you could store that milk somewhere. Where do you usually store milk? In your refrigerator. Very similar concept with programming. Your program is doing all sorts of things and is all over the show. It can't hold its data forever. It needs to store it somewhere and fetch it when it's needed, just like you fetch your milk when you want your cereal in the morning. It's as simple as that. A database is a container that you put data in and you take data out when you need it. Why put it there in the first place? Why do we even need databases? Because programs can't hold data, they can only generate it. So one last time, when your code generates some data, it needs to store it. And that's where databases come in. So now you know what a database is. What is SQL? SQL is the programming language used to create and work with databases. So what is SQLite? SQLite is a program who will manage our database for us. An important distinction here is that SQLite is actually made with the C programming language. The distinction being that databases under the hood are not actually SQL. SQL just tells database engines what to do. Databases aren't actually made with SQL language. SQL language is just commands. So that's the theoretical out the way to get the ideas in your head. Now let's get into the practical to get the experience in your hands. Now the go-to way to start working with SQLite would be to install it on your machine and get it running locally. But there's an even better, faster way. We are going to work on SQLite all in the browser. This is awesome technology, I love it. No worrying about installation, errors, problems, filling your PC with more tech stuff. This is super light, super quick, you can access it anywhere, anytime, and all the work you do is saved in the cloud. So go to repl.it. Click the sign up button. Once you're done with your account, you'll be in the dashboard. Click the plus button at the top right so we can create a new repository. Search for SQLite and hit create repository or REPL. Now you are in the overview dashboard of this repository. It's all in the cloud and you can access this page from anywhere and any device. Now let's get practical. Now we are going to be running our SQL code within the shell window. First steps first, let's create our database. To do that, type SQLite3 and the name of our database, which we are going to call learning SQL.db semicolon. Press enter and we just created our very first database. So this is what we're sitting with. We have a big empty database. Let's fix that. Let's put data inside of it. To do that, we must first create a table. Tables are what hold our data in a database. Here is the table we are going to create. The table's name is programming languages. The first column is ID, which we're going to get into later. The second column is the name of the programming language. And the third column is a common use case for that programming language. And here is some data in the table. We have Python at number 1, row number 1. Its common use case AI and web stuff. Row number 2, we have Swift, and that's iOS and macOS. Row 3, we have C#, and that's very common in game development with the Unity engine. Awesome, so this is a visualization of what we are going to achieve. Right now we've created the database. Now let's create the table with its columns, and then we will fill in each row with the data. Let's start with making the table. Okay, to create our table, we are going to type create table programming languages brackets, so we can give it the columns. The first column is ID. We're going to get into this later. It has to do with relations. It is an integer and a primary key. Put a comma. This is now our second column we are typing, and that is name, and it is a text. Put a comma. This is the third column, and it's usage, and it's also a type of text. Now come to the end, add a semicolon, press enter, and we just created our table. We can view our table by typing .tables and hit enter. There is our table we just created. There's one last step left, guys, for this video, and then we will be done with SQL and SQLite foundation. Now all that's remaining is to insert the data into our database. So this is what it looks like. We're going to turn it into this. Okay, so press the clear to clear your screen like mine if you'd like to. Now to insert some data into a new row, we are going to type insert into programming. Oh, spell that right. Programming languages. Push enter for a new line. Open bracket. Name, comma, usage. Close bracket. We're going to come back to explain what this line is doing in a minute, guys. Values, bracket, close bracket. Let's put inside single inverted colons, Python, comma, new single inverted colons, AI and web stuff. Now go to the end, semicolon, enter. We just entered the first row of data into our programming languages table in our Learning SQL DB. Now let's check that first line by typing select, put a star to say everything from, and then the name of our table, which is programming languages, semicolon, and there is our first line. We have the ID, we have the name, and we have the usage. That is it for this video, guys. In this video you went from zero to understanding what a database is from having no idea. We used a real world example to give you intuition to how a database works and why you need it, why programming needs it. We then went on to explain what is SQL, what is SQLite, and then we created our first database, explained tables, created our first table, and put our first row of data in our database, in our table. This is awesome, guys. There's way more coming up in the next video. I'll see you then. I don't want to bog this video down. Like, subscribe. I got a merch shop, Instagram. I'll see you in the next part 2. You watching this video makes it worth making. You're awesome. Thank you. I hope I see you next time.